Hey y'all, and welcome back to my channel. In this tutorial we are going to be making a fish and lure tumbler. I went with a bass color scheme, but there are tons of options. All you have to do is look up fishing lure, and a lot of different colors will come up that you can choose from to make it look as realistic as possible. And before we jump in, I wanted to do something to celebrate reaching 5,000 subscribers on YouTube. So we are having a huge giveaway with over 10 prizes. All you have to do is make sure you're subscribed to the channel and join my Facebook group and follow the directions in the post. You are seeing some of the amazing prizes that we will have, but there is so much more and I cannot wait to give back to y'all. All right, so let's get started. I'm using a true 32 from the steel Magnolia, and I have a pair of fishnet stockings that I got from Walmart. This time of year is really easy to get these because it's around Halloween and there are plenty of these on the shelves, but you can also order them from Amazon. You just cut the leg off and roll it up and pull it over the bottom of your tumbler. And you actually get about 4 tumblers out of one pair of stockings. So I will show you how in just a minute I save the rest of it and use it for another tumbler. And you want this to be pretty snug on the tumbler, but not too much to where it starts pulling away from this groove, because I want this design to also show in the groove that is on this cup. So I'm just going to pull it down a little bit, make sure that it sits flush with the stainless, and then straighten it all up, and I will tie off at the top so we don't have any movement while I'm spray painting. Also remember to put your PVC for your turner in your cup before you tie this off, because you're going to want to hold it while you're spray painting, and I've made the mistake of tying this off beforehand and had to scrap the stockings and start over because I cut them too short. Once you have that rubber banded or tied off, just trim off the excess, and we're going to tie a tight knot in the bottom so we can use it on another cup. And the colors that I use to make this bass themed is black and white from Rust-Oleum, and Spanish moss and sea green from Krylon. And we're going to start with black. First, lightly spraying the bottom just to give it a little bit of a base. We're going to go in later with acrylics and add a little roughness to the cup, as well as cover the bottom. So spray a pretty good stripe of black on one side of the tumbler, and then you're going to go in with your Spanish moss on either side of that black. The Spanish moss is going to be a little heavier on the sides because that is the main color of this fish, and then the sea green and white is going to be basically the belly. So we want a little bit less of that than we have of the green, and a tiny stripe of the black to go for the spine of the fish. And I have sped this up, but you can still see that I'm really taking my time on spray painting these colors and getting them blended really well. You cannot reuse the stockings once you have spray painted over top of them. So if it was to mess up, then you have to remove them, put a new set on, and then spray paint all over again after you, of course, wipe the previous paint off. And don't be afraid to layer. I went back over it quite a few times with all of my colors. I just hold my can back. That way I get a light dusting rather than really thick burst of color. We're going to sit that to the side and allow it to dry completely before we remove the stockings. You don't want to remove even while it's the slightest bit tacky because it will ruin the whole paint job. So let that dry, and then we're going to go in with some acrylic black paint, fix up the bottom, and give a little bit of roughness to the cup. Not too much, but I have never went fishing and pulled a fish out of the water that has not had some sort of dirt or black specks on it. So we need to make it as realistic as possible. And I have no clue why I grabbed a paintbrush, because that is not what I use on these bottoms. I usually take the fishnet that I just took off of the cup, I roll it up into a ball and dab the paint on, because that gives the same texture, allows a little bit of the stainless to show through to match the rest of the cup. And it works really good on adding the roughness around the cup without making it too bold, I guess you can say. I just dab that on, and I don't worry, like I said, about the stainless coming through. I will go over the edges just a tiny bit and bring that black up on the bottom. If you are more comfortable doing this step after you have applied the first layer of epoxy, then by all means do that. Acrylic wipes off really well without removing the spray paint. So I'm not too concerned about making a little bit of a mistake and having to just lightly wipe that off, since acrylic removes so easily. And as you can see, I'm just adding a little bit of rough spots to this. I'm not going too heavy, just very lightly dabbing that on. Then I will allow this to dry completely and take Rust-Oleum Matte Clear Coat, and I will give this a good 2 generous coats just to be safe, because there is stainless that is showing through. I did not prep this cup because I do not want any of the stainless that is showing through to be scratched up. So after the first couple of coats of epoxy, I will sand the rim down really well to give that little lip at the top and give this cup a really good seal. After my spray paint dried, I gave this a generous coat of a little extra ink epoxy, and we were ready to move into our decals about 8 hours later. I'm using a file that I have had for well over a year, so I'm not sure where I did get this, but if you go to Etsy and type in fishing lure SVG, then you will see so many of them pop up. There's actually tons of different designs, so you don't have to use this one in particular. And the first thing that we're going to do is size this to 7 inches tall. That again is for the True 32 from the Steel Magnolia. And once we have sized that to 7 inches, we're going to duplicate. And then I'm going to flip the design. And the reason that we do this is because on both sides of the fish are not going to be facing the same way. It's going to be the opposite, with this thicker part facing that black stripe that we have on there. And we're going to go ahead and contour that so we can cut out a different color circle for the back of the eye. So I hit contour all and then clicked the circle and removed what it automatically populated, and then duplicated that circle. So now we have our 2 circles for the back of our eyes. And I will link the bronze color textured vinyl that I'm using in the description below for y'all. So remember, your black and your white on your tumbler are the back and the belly of the fish. So this is going to go in between those two, which is going to be mainly on that moss green color. And completely ignore how I apply this side of the decal, because I did mess it up and made it look as difficult as possible. But I'm going to stand this up, and you want to put the side that has the V's in it, like I said, the thicker side, against that black. And then we're going to do the same on the opposite side. This is a curved tumbler, and like I said, I made this difficult, so just ignore this. I will show you an easier way to do this on the other side. We're just going to skip right past that, and here we go with the other side. So when you are applying a really large decal, especially to a curved cup or one that has a groove in it, trim as close as possible to your decal. And you can even cut little slits in the sides in between the design to help you maneuver that and get it on as easy as possible. So I trimmed as close as I could to this, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side. We're going to put this over that moss green and line it up closer to that black stripe that we have. As you can see, I keep flipping my cut back so you can see how it's lined up with the other decal on the opposite side. Press the top down, and then I'm going to trim right there at that groove in the cup, and then apply the bottom decal one by one. And I always have removable matte black vinyl on hand because I do so many peekaboos, and that makes it a lot easier to pull up the corner and make any corrections that are necessary without ruining it with permanent vinyl and having to cut everything all over. And I got a shipment of tumblers in from the Steel Magnolia, and I had ordered some of these 16 juniors, and y'all, look at how cute this is. I decided to make a matching like Daddy and Me set. So I hurried up and got this ready, and you can see it pulled up a little bit of the scales because I applied the decal directly on top of the spray paint. So definitely don't do that, and add on a layer of epoxy before you start adding on your decals. I have my a little extra ink epoxy to add on my first coat, and I do want to tell you that since there is so many different, I guess, brands of spray paint on these cups, and you also have the stainless that is showing through, it's so important to add on those clear coats of the Rust-Oleum matte because you can expect these to repel. I never have issues with a little extra ink epoxy repelling. It's always something to do with something that I personally do. Either I forgot to wash my cup off after grabbing it with lotion on my hands, or there's a number of factors in it, but this design always gives me some trouble. So make sure you seal. And if you do have any repelling, then you can seal as well in between coats, or give that a very, very light sand. Be careful around your rims because it is spray paint with no glitter in between, so you can easily remove paint as well. You can touch it up with the black since we added a little roughness to it, and you won't be able to tell, so that is a good thing. But it's always better to seal than be sorry in the end. I seal everything. I added 2 final layers to the 32 and 3 to the 16 junior just to make sure that it had a really good covering as well, since we didn't do that initial epoxy layer before our decals on that one. Pretty easy design, just a little tedious, but it is a really good one to have on hand for your holiday RTS cups. There are plenty of ladies out there that would like this cup as well, and if they want a little bit of shimmer to theirs, then add a little bit of diamond dust from PDB, and it'll give it a perfect sparkle without taking away from your design. I hope this tutorial was helpful for y'all. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below and I will answer them as best as I can. All of the materials that I used are in the description below. And don't forget about our huge giveaway. Join the Brittany Barnes Boutique group that is also in the description below. Find the pinned post and enter to win one of the amazing prizes that we have. Make sure that you're subscribed to our channel to win. And as always, I thank you all so much, and I will see you next time.